Welcome everyone to Whiskey Uncorked. My name is Brian, and yes, we are doing the third edition of Spinning the Whiskey Wheel, which is fun for me. It's challenging. It's great for me to utilize a collection of samples and things that I've built up over the years, and I get to drink some things that I may have only tasted maybe one other time, and that might be bad, might be great, don't know. But hopefully they're interesting, and they are things that I like to record and put down in the annals of this channel for future reference, if only for myself. So why don't we just jump right into it today? Again, if you're new here, this is the first time watching, I've got over 300 samples loaded into a random whiskey wheel, which should be showing up on the screen here any second. And we spin it, whatever it lands on, I go track down that sample, which is a little bit of a challenge. Probably the hardest thing about this entire operation is tracking down where that sample bottle is, what little box it's in or whatever. But yeah, I can't veto it if we've already reviewed it on the channel, or if it's something that I don't expect, or that I really honestly just want to save for some other occasion. Then yeah, I reserve that right. But I think I did that once, but I don't think it was. Oh, we spun the Aaron 10 last week, and I've already reviewed that one here on the channel. So yeah, that was the one that we kind of said, nah. But let's get to it. Let's spin the wheel and see what we're going to be smelling and tasting today. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, what do we got here? Going to be the first bourbon on the channel. This is probably going to be how we're going to get the first bourbon. Whiskey Sponge Glen Garioch 10-year-old Equinox. Very interesting. 48.5. Whiskey Sponge does fantastic bottlings. Glen Garioch is a distillery that I've found to be extremely interesting. This is another one that my brother has sent me. I don't know if we've landed on one that's actually like one of my old bottles yet. We've only landed on the leftover blind samples, but let me go track down this Glen Garioch from Decadent Drinks, their Whiskey Sponge line, and I'll be right back. All right, I have managed to track it down. I think it's a bit of a tradition. I probably found every other sample of Glen Garioch that I had before I found this one. It seems to kind of be the way things have gone so far early on here, but this is a bottling from Whiskey Sponge, Decadent Drinks. It's part of their Equinox and Solstice line. I have this listed as being released in 2023, or at least maybe that's when Kevin sent it to me. It is bottled at 48.5%, and it is 10 years old from the Glen Garioch distillery. So let's get this thing poured. And we'll give it a quick second to open up a little bit. So Glen Garioch, man, this is a distillery that I have had more experience with recently. I've been going through a bottle of the 12, which I've reviewed on this channel. And I've been enjoying that. I've sampled a few independent bottlings, and they've always been really interesting and good. I don't know if I have like a bead on exactly what Glen Garioch is or what can be expected from them, but I've certainly enjoyed what I've drank from them so far. So I decided not to look up how this scored or what it was up against. I figured I would smell and taste it and just give it a bit of a review. Again, it's not a full review, just an ounce of whiskey here. Probably won't even drink that much before we give it a score, but I'll look that up later so I don't give myself any preconceived notions about how much I like this in the past. We'll leave that a surprise for both of us at the end, but let's see what this is smelling like today. So it's definitely got an interesting nose. This isn't your kind of standard run-of-the-mill kind of single malt whiskey, but there's a little bit of funk to it. There's kind of a sweet, tarty fruitiness. Yeah, it's just kind of, at least I just poured this. You watched me pour it, so it hasn't fully opened up on the nose yet. But it's kind of that general candy fruitiness. right? If you take this a handful of sweet tarts or whatever, or just anything that's like fruity tooty, Hawaiian punch, anything like that, right? It's just, it has a little bit of everything in it, but sweet tarts come to mind. It's been a long time since I've eaten a sweet tart. Okay, that's settling down a little bit. Yeah, very fragrant. There's a very light toasted oakiness to it. You can definitely pick up like the worm tub quality. The worm tubs are such an interesting thing because I think we tend to think of them as like one particular, like if it was just if the condenser was a worm tub, that means like a very specific thing for that distillery. But you look at the list of distilleries that use worm tubs, and it's a small list, small but growing list with some of the new distilleries, and it doesn't mean that they're these big meaty sulfury things, right? This is in that direction though, I would say. It's kind of got a little funky quality to it, different than like the Springbank funk. It's again, that tartness. It's just kind of got something that's a little sour, a little fermentation notes going on. If you've ever like walked into like a craft brewery or something while they were brewing, and you can smell that kind of sweet and sour fermentation smell. There's a little bit of that going on with, again, that fruitiness is just so general. It's interesting. It's actually kind of strange, but I like the nose. I think this is one, if you let this sit open, I wonder what this would do with a little bit of water, to see if you can kind of find a little bit of a middle ground there. But it's interesting and it's enjoyable, particularly if you like things that may be just a tick off of center, a little bit of weirdness, something a little bit unique. Oh, but this definitely isn't completely out of left field. It's just turn the dial a little bit to the right or the left. All right, that's enough rambling on about that. The nose is obviously, it's a little bit hard to pin down, but I think that's the best I can do. Sour fruit, fermenty malt, a little bit of toasted oak, kind of where we're at. Let's taste it and see if that translates directly or if we're going to get something completely different. Cheers. Oh. Yeah, it translates pretty directly. Makes a little bit more sense. It's very interesting. It's that fruit salad, right? It's a little bit apple. It's a little bit citrus. It's a little bit drying. It's a little bit sweet. It's just, it's got a little bit of berries in there. It's just kind of got a little bit of everything. And then the kind of the spirity character to it, especially on the finish when everything kind of settles. It's 10 years old. It's not heavily cask dominated. This is actually a quite pale whiskey. See if I can get that held up if the camera picks it up. So I did not look up barrels because I didn't want to. Maybe I'll check that after this. Try to do these a little bit blind, not do a ton of research on them. If I didn't have it written down on the label, let it go. I think the kind of funky maltiness is a little bit more present on the nose now. Let's do a second sip. Cheers. Ooh, a little tart. More tart that time. Maybe a little more ginger. A little bit more peppery. That's an evolution on the palate. It's not super crazy. It's not, some 25-year-old roller coaster. But a really nice kind of evolution through flavor sensations and flavors themselves, all the way to the finish where it settles and it lingers for quite a while. It's a full experience, great mouthfeel. It's different, but not super weird. if you got at least a few years of Scotch whiskey under your belt. One more quick one. And that tartness is such an interesting. I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is. I could sit here for an hour and maybe not figure that out. But let me look up what exactly happened with this thing. Let me give it a score first. First glance, this might be challenging for some because it is a little weird. It's got a little bit of sharp bite in the middle. That's got to be your thing. If you like that, it's my thing. I like that. It might not be my favorite, but the overall experience very interesting. I think first pass, I tend to be a little bit more conservative on these. I think this would be 7 out of 10. Very good. I'd be happy to have a bottle of this. It'd be an interesting addition to that's going to be at some point. I'm going to try to, obviously this one's going to be gone now, but try to do a Glen Garioch kind of side by side and just try to kind of figure out all the different things that it can be. It seems to be a whiskey or a distillery that can make a lot of different kinds of things. But let me check my history on this and see how it did and what it competed against, and we'll get you out of here. Be right back. All right, I tracked it down. Very interesting. It looks like this wasn't super long ago. A little bit. Yeah, I don't date these. I should start doing that, but maybe sometime last year. All right, so this was a blind of 4 whiskeys. There was another Equinox and Solstice bottling in there. So this came in third in this particular blind. Again, whether it was first or last, it doesn't necessarily mean that it was. If it was last, it doesn't mean it was bad. If you know how blinds are, if you've done blinds, you know how that goes, right? You might love all 4 of them, but last place kind of sucks to say it came in last. But this Glen Garioch came in third place. It beat out the other Equinox and Solstice, which was a 15-year-old Ball Blair bottling, also at 48.5%. Second place was the SRV5 Thompson Brothers, which I also 48.5%. I just had at least. Yeah, it's right there. I just had a pour of that, and man, that is pretty tasty. I've been drinking less whiskey. I've basically been taking a break, not complete dry or anything like that, and a little more beer. Although I don't like drinking a lot of beer because it messes with my stomach these days, and cocktails here and there. But definitely have refreshed my palate over the last month or so. Outside of shooting for videos for this and the occasional and the bi-weekly blinds and all that stuff. But yeah, man, my palate has been a little bit refreshed. Things are tasting pretty good right now. And SRV5 I just had a pour of, actually just kind of warming up for this, was pretty damn tasty. But the winner, not surprising, given its age. But yeah, this is a 19-year-old old. That was a 19-year-old Old Pulteney. A Binny's bottling at 52.3, so a little bit higher ABV on that one. That one came in first place, and yeah, it could show up. I should still have an ounce of that. It could show up on the wheel at some point. But this Glen Garioch, man, Glen Garioch is one of the more interesting distilleries that I think I wouldn't mind spending some time in. I don't think I've had one that's just completely blown my mind yet. The 12 is really good, really interesting. You can check out my review of that one. I've tasted the 15. There's a sample of that. I believe I have an independent bottling of Glen Garioch kind of in the works. I should probably pop that one open at some point. But yeah, Glen Garioch is one that makes really interesting whiskey. Definitely has its fans, and it feels like there's a lot to explore there. But I've got a little bit of this sip left. I'm gonna let you all go. So yeah, 7 out of 10 on this one. Is very good, very interesting. Maybe not for everybody, but I'm definitely enjoying it. And until next time, Thank you for joining. Hit that like, subscribe button down below. Leave a comment. What do you think of Glen Garioch? All that fun stuff. But until next week, cheers.